Maybe that's a little too bright. That's better. Okay, now let's go live on Instagram. And fix this. Okay. Window capture. Yeah. No, that didn't work. OBS, why aren't you working with me today, buddy? Okay, let's go live here. Window capture 2. Okay, sure. We'll call it that. Where did window capture 1 go? I don't know. There we are. There, now we can see stuff. And we're live. Hey, Diana. Thanks for coming. Yeah, it's just our weekly live stream. You know, ESL questions. You know, if you got any questions or anything like that, that'd be great. I'll also be talking about some topics, some, you know, idioms, maybe some phrasal verbs. So, oh, we lost her. She's gone. Alright, that's fine. Let's see here. Let's open up our YouTube on the computer so we can look at the streaming stuff. I never remember. Do I have to go to... I think I have to go to the studio. Yeah. Nope, that's not. Oh, go to video analytics. Nope, that's not it. No, that's not it actually. How do I look at the streaming? Ah, here we go. The analytics. There you go. Hey there. Thanks for coming. We got our weekly live stream going here. Oh, looks like someone's in the YouTube. Hey, good morning. Okay, let me know if you have any ESL questions or anything. Okay, cool. So, yeah, by the way, we're also streaming on YouTube. So if you want to watch on YouTube, you can actually see what I'm doing, right? Like typing and writing and stuff. So last week we kind of went over a couple of different phrasal verbs and some idiomatic language, a little bit of grammar. So this week I'm just going to start off with some more idiomatic language and then go from there if anyone has questions. And hopefully someone does. I'd like that a lot if they do. Let's see, is this going to actually write today? Sometimes this pen doesn't write very well on Zoom. Sometimes it does. I don't know why. Hugo, I guess. Hey there. How's it going? So if you got any ESL questions, you just let me know. Okay, because that's what I really want. I want to answer your questions. That's what it's all about. So let's have a little coffee and get started. So I'm just going to talk about some adjectives until someone asks me a question. All right, and then I'd be happy. Oh, someone is already asking a question about the new reel. Show up. I don't understand the new reel, show up. Okay, that's a phrasal verb as well. All right, so yeah, I posted that one yesterday. I actually posted part 2 today. So it has one of the meanings in there. Chat rate. I don't know what that is. Chat rate. Okay, YouTube. Thanks for telling me about that. Chat rate. So, okay. I guess it's okay to go over it. We can talk about the meanings of show up. I'm going to be posting the part 3 of show up tomorrow, which will have the second meaning. But we can go over it now too. That's fine. Yeah, no problem. So, generally, the primary meaning of show up, let's put this, let's just type it because my typing is more beautiful than my writing. Because my writing is not beautiful. Alright, so show up. It's a phrasal verb. Zozo. says, hey, thank you for your help. Well, I'm very happy to help, and you're very welcome. Did I help you with something in particular, or just kind of in general, right? Hopefully both, right? That would be even better. So show up, it's a phrasal verb, right? It's intransitive, which means it doesn't need a direct object, but it's separable. All right. So when it's separable, transitive when separated. Right, so it doesn't need separated. I always spell separated wrong. I say S-E-P-E every time. Someone says, any tips about the IELTS? Well, yeah, I've got lots of tips about the IELTS. Yeah, lots of tips about the IELTS. Is there anything in particular that you want to know? Just if you got anything more specific, that would be helpful. All right, because I can talk about the IELTS for all day, really. There's a lot of things we could talk about there. Yeah, big topic. My wife says we should be doing kind of like maybe IELTS specific live stream. I think that's a good idea. I just haven't started doing it yet. All right, so it's a phrasal verb, show up. So first we're going to go over show up a little bit, and then we can talk about the IELTS. While I'm talking about show up, it would be good if you try to think about the speaking and reading part. Okay, sure. I'll put this little note up here. IELTS speaking and reading. Okay, so I'll put that in there, kind of like remind myself that that's the next question in the queue. Instagram, if you want to see the examples that I'm writing, you can watch on YouTube, right? And then you can see what I'm writing and doing, on the whiteboard here. Okay, so first let's answer this question about show up. All right, so back into the typing. Let's bring this over here. No, I don't need to highlight it. So it basically means, number one, the first initial meaning is just to arrive or to attend some kind of meeting or meetup, maybe a party, something like that. For example, right? James showed up at my party last night. All right, so he came. All right, he came to the party. Let's see. Carl often shows up late to our meetings. All right, yeah, he comes late often. He's often late. He shows up late. All right, so pretty basic. All right, but the secondary definition, this is the separable. Separable. Right? This is to show someone or something up. To show someone up or show something up. Right? That has a very different meaning. Right? So now we have to put some kind of object between the verb show and the particle up. Particle here being a preposition. Right, so I guess it's kind of more of a prepositional verb, show up. But to show someone up or show something up, that means to kind of exhibit your qualities as better than someone or something else's. All right. Or let's think of a more easily understandable way of defining this. All right, to show something up. Similar to showing off, but specifically in comparison to something else that is inferior, right? So I'm not spelling inferior correctly either. It's an I. So like, for instance, if I'm showing off, I'm just saying, oh yeah, I have this thing, it's so great, I'm great. Like, okay. But if I'm going to show someone up, they have a thing, they think it's great, but then I show my thing and it's better. Right, now I've showed them up. Right, I gave my presentation in the meeting and felt like I did a great job. But then John totally showed me up with his much better presentation. Alright, so my presentation, I thought it was good. But then John did his presentation. It was way better, better than mine. Everybody knows it. So we'd say that he showed me up. Alright, la 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 la, sleep. Okay, thanks for coming. We're talking about the phrasal verb that's in our current video series, showed up. Okay, and once we're done talking about show up, then we're going to talk a little about IELTS speaking and reading, because Zoe, or I think Zoelia, someone asked about that IELTS speaking and reading. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Now, sorry, I wasn't trying to show you up. I just thought I wanted to do my best, right? Maybe this is something John says that after the meeting, you know, something like that. It's like, oh, I wasn't trying to make you look bad by me being better, all right? So yeah, here we go. To make someone or something else look bad by being better yourself. All right, that's showing you up. All right, so we can try some examples. All right, to show up, unseparated, means just to arrive or be somewhere, come somewhere, do something. To show something or someone up means to kind of like show that you're better than them in some way, or kind of exhibit that you're better than them in some way. All right, so big difference between the two things. Right, big difference in meaning there. Let's see. I'll give you guys a few minutes. If anyone wants to give me some examples, I'll just chill here and wait for you. I know that there's like a few seconds audio delay, and then you have to type it, and then there's a delay in sending it. So there's a delay on a delay on a delay. If anyone wants to send some examples in the chat or on YouTube, since I'm going to be posting this on YouTube, if you want to send some examples in the comments, that's also fine. I'll let you know how it goes and give you some feedback on it. It'll be good. You'll learn something, hopefully. That's the goal, at least. We're going to learn something. Let's see here. Oh, look, we got someone else in the YouTube. So if you guys, either one of you guys want to do an example, I'd be more than happy to hear it. Okay. I think that's enough time to wait for examples. Let's start talking about that IELTS stuff. Okay. So if anyone wants to submit some other examples for show up, or show someone or something up, you can put it in the comments or in the chat. Both are fine. IELTS speaking and reading. This is a, this is a big category here, big question. All right. Let's talk about the reading first. Okay, so IELTS reading. Big test here, big category. I guess we want tips about the IELTS. And that's fine, I can give you some tips, but let's talk about some of the basics first, just to make sure we're all on the same page. IELTS reading is one of the sections of the test that has a big difference between the general and the academic test. Okay, so the IELTS reading, it's scaled. So reading number 1 is always easiest. Reading number 2 is harder. And reading number 3 is the hardest. All right, but what a lot of people might not know is this is the general, and the academic, let's put this in a different color, let's say purple. 1, 2, 3. Easiest, harder, hardest. So as for like the overall reading level and skill level required, basically the general reading number 3, the hardest reading on the general test, is about the same level of difficulty as the easiest reading on the academic test. All right, so then the number 3 reading on the academic test is way harder than anything you're going to see on the general test. All right, so first thing we need to know is like how this thing works. Yes, they are intentionally trying to make each successive reading more and more difficult. All right, that's how it's supposed to work. All right, so if you ever feel like, oh, well, I have a much easier time with the first and second one than the third one, this is why. Because it is actually harder, the third one. Or at least it's supposed to be. It's designed to be. All right. So, let's clear this out. We don't need this info anymore. Delete, delete, delete. So it's a scaled test. We have to keep that in mind. It's progressively more difficult as you go. So the biggest problem number 1, right? Problem numero uno. The biggest problem people tend to have with the reading test is the timing. Timing is a huge, huge issue, especially for first-time test takers. Some people, the first and the second time that they take the test, often they only finish 2 readings out of 3. That's bad. There's always 40 questions on the reading test. And if you do 2 out of the 3 readings, you're probably only answering maybe 28 to 30 questions, leaving 10 of them blank or just unanswered or just kind of guessed. Sometimes people just kind of go through it really quickly and just try to guess. That's fully 25%. Right? That's a significant portion of the reading questions that are either unanswered or completely unresearched or just not prepared for. Right? Not prepared at all. So it's the timing issue. People end up spending a very long time or more time on part 1 and part 2, and that's why they run out of time for part 3. It just doesn't happen. All right? So the biggest tip on the reading test that I tend to give people is kind of our overall structure and approach to the test. All right? That's to solve the timing problem, and that's really one of the biggest problems for most people. Problem number 2 is accuracy or technique, however you want to think about it. And we'll talk about that too. But first, we're going to talk about the timing. All right. So let's break this down here. All right. Let's clear all this out. Actually, we don't need this either. So again, just some basic info, right? The reading, you always get 60 minutes, and there's always 40 questions. They get progressively more difficult. Each reading section is typically going to have anywhere from like 12 to possibly as many as 16 or even 18 questions. You know, somewhere in there, right? So sometimes they have more questions, sometimes less. Kind of hard to predict that. Never really know how many questions. So these questions, they're typically coming in groups, right? Usually it's like 3 to 4 groups of like, you know, maybe 5 questions each or so. Approximately. Right, so maybe in reading number 1, you get 4 or 5 true, false, not given questions, and then you get 3 or 4 sentence completion questions, and then you get like 5 or 6 summary completion questions, something like that. All right, so they come in groups. Question types, knowing the question types, that's part of the technique or accuracy section problem that people have. Okay, let's see. Do we still have people watching this bad boy? No. He was showing up with a much better idea during the meeting today. Here we got a nice example there. That's pretty nice, yeah. Pretty good example. It's hard to tell if you're talking about the first or second meaning, though. Which one did you intend? Pretty good, though. Sorry, I just wanted to comment back on that person a little bit. So, each section, each reading part probably is going to have anywhere from like 12 to 16 questions, and that's usually going to be 3 or 4 groups of questions of certain question types. All right, knowing the question types is very helpful and important. We'll talk about that a little bit more later in a few minutes. So with the timing problem that people have, the real question is like, what are we going to do to help? How are we going to address this timing problem? Well, we want to be consistent. The test is consistent. It's always 60 minutes. It's always 3 reading sections, and it's always 40 questions, right? I should probably put that in there. 3 sections. So I always suggest that we try to be consistent with our timing as well. So the student, we want to do this in 2 rounds. The reading test. We're going to do it in 2 rounds, IELTS reading. Right, in round 1, we're going to spend 40 minutes. No more than 1 minute per question. So in the first round, we want to at least see and attempt all 40 questions in 40 minutes or maybe a little less. Let's put this in red because this is important. You will skip questions. All right, you will. We are going, in round 1, we are going to be skipping some questions. How many? Well, that depends on your overall skill level. But most people end up skipping anywhere from like 10 to 15 questions. So what we're trying to do in round 1 is answer the easiest questions first. And we're going to skip some. It is going to happen. Okay? So at the end of the first 40 minutes, you should A, you should have at least seen every single question. B, at least scanned every reading. All right? So by the end of this, you're going to have, or you should have, at least a general idea of what's happening in all of these questions. And hopefully you have answered a majority of them. That would be nice. All right? And then in round 2, let's put this in black again, round 2, we're going to have 20 minutes. Okay? And more time for more difficult questions. All right. So now in round 2, now we are going to devote that extra time to the difficult questions, the ones that we're having more trouble with. All right. So by now we've already seen all of the questions. We've already seen all of the readings. Now it's our second time through. And you know what? Some people, they just have better ideas second time through. They're like, oh, you know what? First time I saw that, didn't know. Or now you've already answered some of the questions. Maybe you've eliminated some of the answers. Maybe you're getting a better idea of where the answers might be. All right, so it's your second time through. Should be at least familiar. If not easier, definitely more familiar. All right, and this is going to give you a better chance to answer more questions more accurately. So this is my number one piece of advice for the IELTS reading. We need to have a very, very, very consistent, logical timing strategy. This timing strategy also incorporates the need to at least see and attempt all of the questions before the time runs out, well before the time runs out. Just doing that is going to put you ahead of many of the other IELTS test takers, right? Because again, a lot of them, especially first-time test takers, they don't even look at reading number 3. They don't even try the questions. They run out of time. All right? That's the number one thing that we want to avoid. That's the number one thing. Right? Just the timing can make a pretty significant difference in your score if you follow these steps. It has to be very strict. All right. So, like I was saying, most of the time questions are actually coming in groups. So we're not really thinking about 1 minute per question. It's more like if you see a group of 5 true-false questions, you're going to give yourself 5 minutes for that section and that's it. No more than 5 minutes. Try your best to answer them all. If you don't have the time, move on. All right. If there's 5 questions, the way that the IELTS works, 2 or 3 of them are going to be pretty reasonable. One of them is going to be really tricky, and then one of them could be kind of hard. All right. So if there's 5 questions in 5 minutes, I'm thinking you should be able to answer at least 2 or 3. That'd be nice. Right? That's the goal, at least. Right? And then those other 2 will come back later. They're more hard. They're more difficult. So we'll give more time to them later. So in round 1, we cannot devote extra time to any question. That's going to hurt you. It'll hurt your score in the end. It'll hurt your timing in the end. It's not good. You don't want to do it. Okay? Now, is there a way that I can just like clear all of this out? I don't know. I don't think there is actually. Can I just delete the whole page? No, I don't think so. Let's just try. Okay, I gotta highlight it, and then it worked. Okay. Now, kind of big overall suggestion number 2, for the IELTS reading. Let's put that back up here. So number 2, this is your overall technique, or maybe we can think about this as a strategy, your technique, your strategy. But this really, it depends on knowing about the test, knowing what the test is like. Let me take a look at my YouTube comments really quick. I guess the second meaning. Okay, so someone in the YouTube, they gave us an example for showed up, but they were trying to use the second meaning, which needs an object between the verb and the particle. All right, so she said he was showing up with a much better idea during the meeting today. So how could we state that or express that in the actual phrasal verb secondary meaning, right? So he showed up my idea in the meeting today. So if someone showed up my idea, or he showed my idea up in the meeting today, I'm only talking about my idea. But someone showed my idea up, or showed up my idea. That means it implies directly that they had a better idea. Right? So like if someone showed up my car, that necessarily implies, one, they have a car, and two, it's better than mine. They showed up my car. They showed my car up. All right? So it is separable. We don't have to separate it, but we can. I would recommend separating it just to make it easier for yourself to understand. All right? Try another example, but this time use the direct object between the verb and the particle. Showed something up. Try that out. Try another example. I'll keep talking about the IELTS, and then I'll come check and see if you've got another example in there. Okay. Yes. Good, good, good. It's nice to get some examples from people. You know, we're getting some people coming in and out of the live stream, but no one's staying. On Instagram, I mean. Got a couple of regulars in YouTube at least, which is nice. All right. Who's out there anyway? Who's watching? I see one person in the comments, but I don't know who the second person is. Maybe it was the person who asked the IELTS question. Let me know. Is that you? You out there, IELTS guy? You just let me know. Now, back to the reading. Right, your technique, your strategy. Something that we really, really, really need to understand in the reading is most, not all, but most of the question types come in order. Right? So let's say that we've got the reading here. That's let's just say it's like a 2-pager, right? We got blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah. So you've got questions 1 through 5 are sentence completion. Questions 6 through 8 is true, false, not given. All right. And questions 9 through, let's just like 14 are notes completion. Well, like most question types on the IELTS, sentence completion and notes completion, these come in order. Right? So the answer to 1 is always going to come before the answer to 2. The answer to 2 is going to come after 1 and before 3. It has to. All right? So that means that if we're looking at these questions and we find the answer to number 3, then we know, okay, somewhere before that is the answer to 1 and 2. It helps us understand the general location of the answer. Because this is something I tell people all the time. The IELTS reading test, it's not a test of your ability to read, right? They know you can read. If you can't read, then you're probably not taking the IELTS test, okay? This is a reading skills test, and one of the most important skills that they're testing you on is your ability to find specific information in the passage. Also, they're testing your ability to ignore unnecessary or unimportant information in the passage. Number 1, if you ever find yourself reading the passage from beginning to end, straight through, you're doing the test wrong. We are not reading. We're looking for answers. We're answering questions. It's not a reading test. It's an answering questions and looking for specific information test. We should be spending a lot more time and effort carefully reading the questions. We should be reading the questions much more in much more detail than the actual text. We're not talking about the text. We don't have to discuss it. We're not writing an essay about it. We don't even have to understand it. Not really. We need to answer the questions. And so knowing how to answer the questions efficiently is very important. So 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so let's say we find all 1 through 5. 9 through 14 are also in order. So that means 9 through 14 are going to be somewhere over here, also in order. But dang it, what about those true, false, not given questions? Okay, they are also in order, but independent. It's going to be an independent order. True, false, not given, yes, no, not given. Those question types do come in order, but they ignore all other question types. So maybe 6 is here and we find it. Maybe 8 is here and we find it. So we know 7 must be somewhere between here and here. It has to be, because the true, false, not given questions do come in order. It's just their own order amongst themselves. Okay? So we just have to be careful about this. True, false, not given questions are going to ignore other question orders. There's only one more question type where this happens. All right, let's take a look here. Boop. Let's say we're on another reading. All right, let's say, okay, it's another 2 pages. All right, we're taking the academic, so it's long reading. All right, cool. We got some paragraphs here. La, la, la. Okay, la, la. All right, that's the reading. We've got, maybe we're looking at questions 15 through, let's say 27. All right, so 15 to 19. Maybe that's going to be, I don't know, notes completion again, right? Do some notes completion. 20 through 24, maybe these are, I don't know, some kind of other question type that comes in order. Let's say, gosh, I can't remember any of the other question types right now. Why? Whatever, let's just say it's a summary again. Okay. And then 25 through 27 is a matching question. There are several different types of matching questions. Matching sentence endings, matching features, matching headings. There's a few different types of matching questions. 25, 26, 27. Right here in this, I've only got like 3. It's like a group of 3. Usually they're going to come in a group of like 5 or 7. This is just an example. Well, okay. So again, the notes and summary completion, these are going to come in order. All right, so the very first one, the first answer that we're going to find is going to be 15. Wherever it is, that's where it's starting. And then everything after that is going to have to be 16, 17, 18, 19. So let's just say we find 15 here. Maybe we're looking through the questions. We find 19 here. Okay. Well, that means 17 and 18 have to be somewhere between 15 and 19 because they're in order. All right. Same thing for the summary questions. These are in order. So say we find 22 here. That means 20 through 21 have to be before it, but after 19. This is going to help us understand the location of our answers. Narrow it down. We don't have to read the whole thing again or scan the whole thing again to find the answer to 21 or 20. Okay? But what about those matching questions? These ones, again, they no order. These ones are totally random. So true, false, not given, yes, no, not given. Their order ignores other question types, but they do come in order. Matching questions, any matching question. They're totally random. Like 25 could be over here, 27 could be over here, 26 could be right here. It's all over the place. Matching questions are all over the place. This is all matching questions. Any type of matching question. So they're totally random. They're all over the place. There's nothing, we can't predict where they're going to show up or what order they're going to come in. So this leads to a problem for some people, right? The big problem is that people go over time on matching questions very often. If there's 5 matching questions, they might spend 10 or 15 minutes looking for the answers. This is a huge mistake. Matching questions, I think, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, matching questions are harder. That's true. That is 100% true. Matching questions are harder. They're more complicated, they're more difficult, but, here, let's put this in another color. They are not worth more points. They are not worth more points. They are harder, and they do take more time for most people, but they are not more valuable. They do not give you more points if you get them correct, or you don't lose more points if you get them wrong. They are equally valuable as all other questions on the test. This is one reason why in my timing suggestion I tell people you want to spend 40 minutes in round 1 and at least see and attempt every single question, at least a little bit, at least a bit, because they're all equally valuable. So in round 1, we are not devoting more time or more effort to any question ever, because they're all equally valuable. That's why we want to find the easier questions with the easier answers first, right away. Get them done first. Because some questions are going to take you more time. They will. They will. They will take more time. Some of them will take more time. It's just that they're not more valuable. They're only more difficult. So we want to get all of the easier questions out of the way immediately, do our very, very best, take a look at the harder questions, and then in round 2, now it's our second time seeing these harder questions. And hopefully we've already eliminated some of the answer options, making it a bit easier to answer those questions. Very, very important. Even if we're only making things a little bit easier, that's still easier. It's a little easier. Now, I'm saying easier, comparative, because if anyone ever looks you in the eye and says, oh, this is easy about the IELTS, they are wrong. They probably have no clue what they're talking about, or they're not as smart as they think they are, right? I've taken the IELTS test a couple times myself. I'm a native English speaker. I teach the test, and I'm telling you right now, there's not a single part of that test that's easy for anybody. And if they tell you that it is, they either don't know what they're doing, didn't actually take the test, didn't understand what was going on, or maybe they're just an idiot. Okay? So, because matching type questions are harder, and because they're in a totally random order, and they're very hard to predict, if there's a group of matching questions, okay, this one came at the end here, all right, we're still going to do them first, though. We're going to attempt them first every time because they're out of order. They're going to get us a nice general overview of all of the reading. We're going to get a nice summary overview. Just trying to answer these questions and looking for the answers, we're going to have to look all over the reading. And that's going to get us a good general overview, a top-down view, bird's eye view of what's going on in that reading section. Plus, let's just say that the matching questions were here in the middle. Could have been. So we start by doing these ones, and okay, these ones are in order. Now the matching questions aren't in order. Now these ones are back in order. Well, that's just going to confuse you. That's going to mess you up. You don't want that to happen, right? Do the matching questions first. If there are true, false, not given, yes, no, not given questions, do those first. If it happens, it's rare, but sometimes you get an ordered question, a true, false, not given, and a matching, or like two different groups of ordered questions, and a true, false, not given, and a matching all in one reading. You're going to do the matching first, then the true, false, not given, and then the ordered questions. You always want to do your ordered questions in a group together, because it's a nice logical progression. So you do the crazy random ones first, matching questions. The ordered but independent order second, your true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, and then your ordered questions. Okay, let's take a look at YouTube and see if anyone's got any questions or comments. My mom can't stop showing her red envelope amount up. Okay, she got the most amount from the red envelope clicking game. Okay, yeah, that works. Yeah, so that's kind of a little Chinese culture thing. If no one knows what a red envelope is, it's just kind of like a gift. It's like a money gift. They put it in a red envelope. Lucky red envelope for money. Well, that example, it works better as showing off, right? So for something to be showed up, we're not mentioning the better thing. We're only mentioning the inadequate or less adequate, less good thing, right? My mom showed up my red envelope because hers had so much more money, right? So what's getting showed up? You're getting showed up. Your envelope is getting showed up because yours is the not good one. Your mom's is better. She has more, right? So if you're talking about hers being better, she's showing off. If you're talking about yours being worse, yours was showed up. So it's kind of like the difference between experiencing the betterness or being subjected to the betterness, right? Having the betterness or being subjected to the betterness. If you're subjected to something else being better, you are showed up. If you're the one that has the better thing and you're, showing it, you're showing off, right? So they do have a relationship. This is a little tricky, I know. Right, so your mom is showing off her envelope. Your envelope is being showed up. Right? Does that make sense? You can try another example. Does anybody have any questions about this IELTS reading stuff that we're going over? Put it in the chat. Or if you're watching the recording later, put it in the comments. Okay, so this is tricky, but it's important. Knowing the question types, how they work, how the test actually works, what we're actually doing, how we should be doing it, it's really important. All right, it's really important. And this information, it's online, it's out there, but there's also a lot of bad and wrong information out there. So it's kind of hard to find good, accurate information about the IELTS test online. Because there's just so much information. Some of it is just misinformation, though. Maybe even disinformation. PC Club says, "Thank you so much." Well, thank you. Are you the person that asked the question? I'm not sure. Everyone's username is different from Instagram to YouTube, except mine. All right, mine's the same. Need Help English. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It's all Need Help English. The website is Need Help English. It's all Need Help English all the time. All right. So, gosh, I ended up talking about the IELTS reading a lot, but those are kind of my two big what am I calling these? Hints, right? 2 big pieces of advice, right? Number 1, you really, really need to have a very consistent timing goal. Number 2, you really, really need to understand how this test actually works. What are they actually testing? It's not your reading. It's not a reading comprehension test. If it was, then it would be an integrated skills test like the TOEFL. Right? You would read something and then write something about it, or read something and then talk about it. That's not what they're doing. All right? That's not what's being tested. Your ability to ignore unnecessary information and your ability to find specific information, those are the 2 big ones that are actually being tested. You know, if you're looking for 12 to 15 different answers or so for every reading section, many of them are you're actually looking for 1 word, 2 words, maybe 3 words sometimes. But the readings themselves on the academic test, they might have as many as 1,000, 1,200, or 1,500 words. Which means 99% of the information on the page is completely useless. 99%. Let's be fair. Let's say 95%. At the high end or low end, the very, very, very vast majority of the information on the page in the reading test is completely useless. It's not going to help you get a grade on the test. Here we go. My height is being showed up, clearly standing beside my model friends. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense, right? So it's like they're so much taller than you, you're so short, your height's getting showed up. All right? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That makes that works. That works much better. Good job on that one. Now, all right. That's the reading. We could talk about the reading more. Again, IELTS reading, this is probably something that I could talk about literally all day. IELTS speaking, also, I could probably talk about that literally all day. Let's get into some basics for the IELTS speaking, okay? We got someone new in on the Instagram. Oh, nope, they're gone already. Can't keep anybody on the Instagram. I don't know. I think I'm seeing a decrease in viewership ever since I stopped posting the Instagram recording. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's a decrease in the viewership for that. I don't know why. We used to get more people. Now less. We got to figure out what we're doing with that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm not doing it for the viewers. I'm doing it to help people and just to, spread awareness of what I do. Right, so, if people want to show up, great. If they don't, okay. It's fine too. No big deal. Let's see. IELTS speaking. I really should make dedicated YouTube videos for this stuff. I've just been so busy with other business stuff lately that it's like not happening right now. But I know I should be making more longer, dedicated YouTube videos for IELTS and TOEFL stuff, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's on the list, but it's a long list of things to do. Very, very long list. So yeah, the YouTube videos are not a priority right now. Later they will be. Okay. Now, IELTS speaking. Top tips, right? Top tips for IELTS speaking. Here's number 1. Here's one thing that we really need to know, right? Accent, not graded, right? They don't care about your accent. They're not grading your accent. They're grading your pronunciation. Okay, now this pen has stopped drawing. Why? It's still plugged in. Oh, now it all appeared at once. Okay, great. That's weird. That's okay. I don't know why that happened. Alrighty, close that, clear that. Let's see, is it going to draw now? Okay, the accent is not graded. Pronunciation is graded. But basically, they just want to know, can we understand you easily? Right? So if we're saying photograph, 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 whatever, I can understand that. All right, that's pronunciation. All of those different accent pronunciations are all fine. Photograph, that's also probably okay. But if someone said photograph, photograph, photographe, photograph, right? I cannot understand the word that you're saying. That is when you have a problem, right? That is graded, all right? So there's a big difference here. Everyone has an accent. If you're trying to reduce your accent to practice your IELTS speaking, you are wasting your time, okay? Pronunciation is important, but as long as you're able to be understood reasonably well with reasonable ease, you're going to be just fine. Right, so this is something that people waste a lot of time on, working on their accent and stuff. Not really that important for the IELTS speaking. Now, the speaking, it happens in 3 parts, similar to the reading, right? That's also in 3 parts. Speaking, the 3 parts are pretty different from each other. And whenever I'm training people for the IELTS speaking, first thing that we go over is the actual grading criteria, like the pronunciation thing. You're being graded on lexical resources, pronunciation, grammatical range and accuracy, and just kind of like task achievement, like how well are you answering questions. They're all equally important, right? So if you're spending 80% of your time trying to improve your grammar to work on the speaking test, or if you're spending 80% of your time trying to improve your accent or pronunciation on the speaking test, that is wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. Okay? Grammar is not more important than coherence and cohesion or organizational structure. It just isn't. Right? Something I tell people a lot, if you're worried about your grammar and like working really hard on grammar in preparation for the IELTS, then you probably should not be taking the IELTS. You're not ready. Okay? Because the IELTS is all about other skills. Do they grade your grammar? Yeah. Yes, that's part of it. But if your grammar level isn't appropriate or high enough for the test, then you probably just shouldn't be taking it yet. Right? You should delay that, work on your grammar independently without a time pressure on you. Secondarily, we want to, the 3 different sections of the test, we want to have a plan. We want to have a technique, a strategy in place. We need to know what we're trying to do before we start doing it. All right? So sometimes this means knowing what they actually want. What are we really trying to do here? Similar to the reading, there's a lot of misconceptions. This is the IELTS speaking test. They should call it, or they could call it, the IELTS conversation test. Some people misinterpret the speaking test as like the IELTS answering questions test. They're asking you questions, but we're not just directly answering them. What we're doing is we're trying to simulate a conversation. So what we should be doing instead is telling stories. We're telling stories. That's how we answer the questions. We answer in a narrative format. All right. So in part 1, something that people might not be aware of is that the examiner has to ask at least 5 questions. They have to. All right, shoot, we're out of time. I shouldn't have talked about the reading so much. Tell you what. Next week, I'll write myself a note. Next week, we'll start by talking about IELTS speaking. Okay, we'll start off with IELTS speaking next week because we ran out of time this week. Sorry about that. So next week we'll start with IELTS speaking. All right, I'll put that in the description of the video so that everybody knows. All right, and me, I also need to know. All right, thanks everybody for coming today. Thank you very much for participating, leaving some comments or some chats. If someone's watching this later, they're watching the recording on YouTube, if you've got questions or you've got something you want me to talk about, leave a comment. That's fine. I'll note it and I'll talk about it for the next stream. I'll answer your questions. Maybe I'll answer it in the comments. Maybe I'll stream about it. Probably both. Okay? So don't be shy. Don't worry about that. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to follow. All that other normal stuff. And remember, if you need help with your English, you need www.needhelpenglish.com. Education, training, success.